Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our presentation, 3 Steps to Managing Career Anxiety in Uncertain Times, presented by Avery Roth, an executive career coach with Ivy Exec. My name is Mara. I'm the content manager at Ivy Exec, and I'll be moderating today's session. Before we begin, I have a few brief housekeeping items for our audience. First of all attendees are currently in listen-only mode. However, we do encourage you to engage in the session by asking questions to our presenter, which you can do using the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We encourage you to ask your questions during the presentation and we'll address them at the end. Additionally, we are recording today's session, so you can look forward to receiving a copy of the recording via email in the coming days. And now I would like to introduce you to our presenter today, Avery Roth. Avery Roth is an executive coach whose expertise is mindset work and meditation as tools for overcoming internal blocks and achieving fulfillment. She is a former investment banker, strategy consultant, and startup founder, and is prized by her clients for bridging their comfort zone of the business world to the growth edge of becoming comfortable managing internal dynamics. She combines her proprietary strategy frameworks and sharp business chops with tools such as mindfulness, meditation, brain-based coaching, and loving kindness to guide clients to major breakthroughs resulting in career fulfillment. She has been a featured speaker and writer with organizations such as Fortune Magazine, Fast Company, and Harvard University, and offers coaching and consulting services to individuals and organizations through Ivy Exec and her private practice. And with that, I will hand the presentation over to Avery. Avery, it's all yours.
Thanks, Mara. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm Avery. I'd like to thank each and every one of you who showed up here today, not only for giving me your time, but also for investing your time in yourselves. I think mindset management is a form of self-care and self-respect, and so you deserve a lot of credit for showing up today. So without further ado, let's jump into this webinar, 3 Steps to Managing Career Anxiety in Uncertain Times. So, excuse me. The reason we're all here, or one of the predominant reasons we're all here, is because we are currently living in a time of shared trauma. So the METIV Center defines trauma as a sudden event that dramatically explodes into our lives and changes the way we perceive the world. So given COVID-19, including the shelter-in-place experience we've all been living through and slew of deaths, whether we know those people or not, has been traumatic. The economic fallout from this pandemic has been intense, including loss of employment for many people and or loss of income. And to compound all of that, there is a lot of emotional intensity around the racial justice protests that are occurring across our country. And I think altogether, that creates a dynamic where there's a lot of stress, a lot of trauma, and we're all feeling it at once. So I'd like to take a moment to explain the difference between stress and trauma. Stress is something like what you feel when you have an important deadline coming up and you feel like you're way behind schedule for delivering it. That feeling of your heart kind of beating in your chest or maybe even your throat and just the intensity of it, that is stress. Trauma is sort of the next level of stress. So you can see this sort of swelling that I've created around this particular event, which is, let's say, losing your job. That creates stress with higher intensity and a more lasting impact. So at the moment, what we are dealing with is compound trauma, where we have several different traumas happening at the same time. And all of that kind of comes together into one force that can be really overwhelming for our systems. Trauma can manifest in many different ways, but here are a few of the symptoms that you may be experiencing at the moment. A shortened attention span, forgetfulness, muscle tension, maybe you have tightness in your shoulders, tightness in your neck, tightness in your stomach, fatigue, headaches, inability to concentrate, spacing out, and a sense of withdrawal from what's happening in the world. So if this is your first time learning about trauma, then it might be enlightening for you to realize that this host of symptoms all sort of fits under the framework of trauma. And an additional symptom of trauma is anxiety. So anxiety happens when, instead of being present in the now, in this moment, which is when we have the ability to really experience our life. Really, all life is a series of moments, like pearls strung on a string, and each of those moments is the present. So we can only really live in the present, and it's during the present that we can achieve clarity and then achieve the flow that allows us to move toward our goals. But one of the manifestations of anxiety is when we are living in the past and revisiting pain that we have experienced in the past, and then projecting that onto our future through feelings of fear or sometimes numbness. So instead of living in the present, we sort of override the present by projecting our past onto our future and sabotaging ourselves. What are some symptoms of anxiety? These are some symptoms that you, like me, may be familiar with over the last couple of months. What if they lay me off? A lot of people are fearful about their jobs, or what if I'm furloughed? You may be worried about your elderly parents, or anyone that you know who is in a high-risk category. That could include yourself. Oh no, I think I'm getting a fever. That is not one that we ideally want to be experiencing, but it is definitely on our minds. How am I going to pay my kids' tuition? That one tends to come up because it's a big expense, but financial worries across the board and stress around whether you're going to be able to afford it is big at the moment. How am I ever going to find a job now? That may be the case for you if you were unemployed prior to COVID and you're thinking, oh my God, now how am I going to deal with this? Or it could be the case that you have been laid off or furloughed during COVID and now you're thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to get back into the workforce? And then finally, you may be experiencing the nuttiness of having your kids at home driving you crazy. Or it could be your family, or it could be your pets, or it could be all of the above. So imagine all of these anxieties happening at once, and it's pretty distracting. And I imagine I don't need to actually have you imagine that, because it's what a lot of us have been experiencing. So, okay, we've discussed what's going on, and we've discussed how troubling the symptoms are. And now I'd like to share with you a means for getting out of this pain point. So I'd like to share with you a construct called the 3 A's of change: awareness, acceptance, and action. So first, in order to change something that we are unhappy with, we need to be aware of what it is. We need to be aware that something is happening that we're unhappy with, and we need to be aware of what it is so that we can change it. then we can move into acceptance. So before we can actually step into action, there's a period of surrendering into the fact that we are experiencing this challenge, and that acceptance period can take quite a while. And it's really important to acknowledge that it can take quite a while, because a lot of people put themselves under a lot of pressure once they're aware of their problem to deal with it. But first there's a period of awareness, then there's a period of acceptance, and finally you can move into action. And this phrase, name it to tame it, I think is a really good way to sum this up, because you can't solve something if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know what it is. So the A that we're going to be focusing on today is awareness. I'm going to help you cultivate awareness of what's going on and teach you a way for starting to move into acceptance and action. So I'd like to explain to you the mechanics of fear, because I think this plays into our awareness of what's going on. Anxiety is just fear, essentially. Fear of the future, normally. And what happens when we as animals experience fear is that our lizard brain, which is right at the back of our head, it's our amygdala, that's the oldest part of our brain, which controls survival. It's the part that's most reactive to any stimulus that we think is threatening to us. So when we are thinking strategically and focusing on work and focusing on goals that we want to achieve, we are largely in our prefrontal cortex, which is the executive portion of our brains. This is where we want to be. This is the part of our brain that allows us to achieve fulfillment and flow. But when we are threatened, what happens is our prefrontal cortex is essentially shut down or incapacitated to a certain degree, because our amygdala kicks in and hijacks our brain. And what happens physiologically at this moment is our brain releases cortisol and adrenaline, which are our fight or flight hormones. And the biological impact of this is that we move into one of three different states. We can move into fight, the fight state, which is irritability, a proclivity toward anger, heightened, like a state of arousal. We can move into flight mode, which is essentially what I call #GTFO, getting the bleep out, getting the bleep out of here. That's often my go-to. Or the last one is freeze, and that's where you're like a deer in the headlights, and your brain seems to be doing something that you can't even control. You're just frozen and you can't figure out how to get out of your own way. So the amazing thing is that we get to choose which side we're on. We get to choose whether we allow our amygdala, our lizard brain, the part of our brain that puts us into fight, flight, or freeze mode and sets off fires and bombs and hysteria and all those feelings that we don't want, anxiety. Or we can choose to reside in our prefrontal cortex, where we can relax, be at peace, and feel happiness. So essentially what's going on here, it's like a tug of war between these two parts of the brain, and we get to decide which side we're on. So here's the trick for deciding which side of the tug of war you want to be on. We are not our feelings. We are actually the consciousness observing our feelings. So the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive brain, can regain control. It can win the tug of war by observing feelings as they come up, the feelings coming from the amygdala, and making a decision to react differently. So like this guy is saying, or imagining, he's saying, Aha, hello, fear, I see you. I am going to put you back in your box now. Bye-bye. And that essentially is what I'm going to teach you how to do during the rest of this webinar. I'd like to share with you a construct that comes from the world of trauma. It's called the window of tolerance. And this construct helps us to understand how we can re-enter the domain of the prefrontal cortex. So this zone here is the zone in which we feel largely in control of our reality. We feel grounded, we feel flexible, we're able to self-regulate emotionally, and this window is the domain of the prefrontal cortex. When during life we exit the window of tolerance, kind of like this yellow line is showing you a tolerable experience, but when we exit the window, either on the upside or the downside, we enter into the realm of the amygdala. So when we become hyper aroused, this is what can create anxiety, and this is the domain of the fight and the flight responses. On the other hand, when we become hypo-aroused, this becomes the domain more of depression, or as many executives experience, numbness, and this is the domain of the freeze response. So we gain calm, move back into our prefrontal cortex by re-entering the window of tolerance. And the way that we do this is by practicing grounding, presence, and an openness and curiosity that can manifest when we refrain from judging ourselves. So the path back into your window of tolerance is through your inner world. And that is why I have written here a welcome to your inner world. You may not be aware that an inner world exists, and that is okay. That's my job, to help orient you. And it is through meditation and mindfulness that you will gain access back to the window of tolerance through the cultivation of presence and grounding. As your coach and as the leader of this webinar, it is my job to guide you and to teach you how to navigate for yourself. So I think this is a good moment for me to just highlight that I am offering a really cool starter coaching package, which I'll refer to again later, in which I can help you get a start, kind of like tricycle wheels, to help you get going in terms of learning how to navigate your inner world for yourself. But for now, let's turn to the process of me guiding you during the rest of our time together. Mara, I think, is going to be adding a link into the chat box so that you can follow that link to learn more about coaching with me. Just mentioning that now so that you can check that out if you'd like, but she'll also post it again later, and we'll come back to this later. Okay, so here is my framework for going inside to get clarity. It's called Stop, Drop, and Listen. So you may be familiar with Stop, Drop, and Roll. It is kind of like the saying that the fire department uses to help you understand immediately and recall to mind what to do when there's a fire. So this is similar in the sense that this is what to do when there's a fire in your mind. You want to stop, drop, and listen. So let me take you through these 3 steps. First, stop. Stop suggests that there is an end to movement. It's when something is moving and it stops. So What we want to do is stop doing things and slow down. And I've written here that slowing down a 16-wheeler takes energy and effort. It's not just like the truck driver steps on the brakes and boom, the truck stops. There's a period of slowing momentum. So this really requires energy and effort to slow ourselves down, especially for executives who tend to be go, 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 go. So I just want to really highlight the fact that this is an important step, and it also takes a lot of time, kind of like I was referring to the 3 A's, awareness, acceptance, and action, kind of like the acceptance period takes a long time. This stop section is actually quite hard. So be gentle with yourself, go easy on yourself, knowing that this is really hard, but I think this is really the first step. Stop moving, slow down. Also, it's important to stop believing that doing more or moving faster is the answer, because that's actually the problem. So it's about stopping what you're doing, stopping the status quo. Next, you drop. We'll drop into our body in order to connect to our mind. So I'm sure you've heard of the mind-body connection, and I'd also like to share that in the world of trauma, our emotional traumas actually live in our body. So by connecting to our body, we are able to access the emotions and the roots of the emotions and then heal them. And that is what allows us to create the changes that we want for ourselves. So dropping into the body and doing this body work is imperative. It's also important to drop any judgments, especially of oneself. And as we alluded to with the window of tolerance, openness and a sense of curiosity are fundamental to the state of being inside the window of tolerance. So as we move through the meditation and the inner work, it's important to catch yourself out when you're self-judging. Let's say your mind starts to wander and you think, oh, I'm not doing this right. And your mind starts to wander again. Oh, I'm never going to get this right. Well, the wandering of the mind is what the mind does. It's what all of our minds do. It's what our minds were programmed to do. So there should be no judgment in it. It's just a matter of observing. And as we observe, we are then able to move into acceptance and finally action. And the third step is listen. So we're going to be doing a guided meditation. So the first part of the listen refers to you listening to the questions I'm going to ask you that are going to help you access your inner wisdom and then gain clarity for what you in particular want in your future. The second piece of the listening relates to listening to your body. So, as I said, trauma lives in the body, and the answers that you're looking for will arise in the form of emotions, thoughts, physical sensations, visuals, maybe just a sense of knowing. And whatever comes up is meant to come up. So really, this is another opportunity for you to drop any judgments or expectations of what you should be thinking or feeling. And instead just notice what's coming up, listen to it, and allow it to come. The receipt of this information is what will allow you to blaze a path forward. So before we move into the meditation, I'd just like to highlight that this is a safe space. So inner work is super personal, and especially if you've never done it before, I think it's important for you to know that this space that I am holding for you is safe. Some ways that I can define that for you are through my intentions. First intention is care. It's really my intention to care for each one of you that's on this call. I know this is a group call, but I genuinely feel a connection to each one of you here right now, and I want you to know that I care about you, even though we've likely never met before, and that I'm holding you in this moment. Secondly, I want you to know that I respect you. I know that you have the answers that you need, and I am your guide, helping you to tap into those answers. So I respect your experiences of the past. I respect your experience of moving through the meditation right now, and I respect the decisions that you decide to take as a result of this meditation. Thirdly, I want to mention that my role is really to serve your highest good. So I don't have any agenda except to be a conduit for your fulfillment and success. And I never have judgments at all with the people that I work with and support. So I really want you to know that as your partner in this, I am fully rooting for you and opening my heart for your highest good. The last piece I want to mention is about boundaries, because since we're creating a safe space, it's imperative that if you no longer feel safe, that you respect those feelings, respect yourself, and if you begin to feel uncomfortable, trust your instincts. So if you start to feel uncomfortable in a way that that's beyond just stretching yourself, then it's really important for you to come out of the meditation. And if you feel that it promotes your safety and well-being even further, to log off of this webinar. And if you do that, I would just ask that you reach out to me through Ivy Exec so that I can connect with you after the call and make sure that we bring you back to a safe place. Sound good, everybody? Okay, great. So we're going to move into the guided meditation now. I'm going to invite you to get comfortable wherever you are. Perhaps close the door. If you're in a room with an open door, get comfortable. You know, that might mean getting cozy onto the sofa, or maybe sitting on the floor or on a pillow, or even lying down if you feel that that's most comfortable for you. You might want to put a blanket over you if it's not boiling hot like it is here. Or, you know, open a window if that feels better. Maybe light a candle. And it's also really important to grab a piece of paper or a journal and a pen, have it nearby so that you can sketch down any thoughts that come to you and insights that come to you. So I'm just going to give you a moment to do that, to get comfy. So as part of my method for guiding you, I also drop into my own body. So if you see me with my eyes closed, or putting my hands on my heart, or breathing in a certain way, that's just a function of me connecting to myself. And I encourage you to do whatever you need to connect to yourself as well. I also just wanted to explain so that you know what's going on my side as you watch me. So let's begin, shall we? I'd like you to take a really nice, big, deep breath in through your nose, expanding your lungs and holding at the very top, sucking in a little bit more air, and then exhaling through your mouth audibly. Let's do this a few more times. In through the nose, to the tippy top, hold it in a little more, and out. A few more times at your own pace. With each exhale, allow your body to soften into the ground. And you can allow your eyes to gently close. Now bring your focus to your breath and notice where you feel the breath entering your body the most vividly. That might be in your nostrils as you feel breath entering your nostrils and then exiting your nostrils as you observe your normal breathing. It may be that you feel your belly rising and falling. It may be that you feel your chest expanding and contracting. You may feel it in your throat, passage of air in and out, like a circle. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling again and then exhaling. Just observe your breathing as a manifestation of the fact that you're alive. You're simply watching the animal that is you breathing. You are breathing you. And notice how the focus on the breath allows you to focus on this moment, right now, present moment. And notice as your pulse begins to slow a little bit, and you begin to drop into your body, noticing where your body meets the ground beneath you, whether that's under your sitting bones, your feet on the floor, your back against a chair, or the sofa, or maybe it's your whole body softening into the ground beneath you. You can let your eyes roll outward as your focus softens and goes inside. And you notice how supported you are by Mother Earth. It's like a mother carrying her baby. Baby doesn't have to do anything. It's able to move around wherever the mother goes without lifting a finger because it's fully supported. And so you are fully supported in this body in this moment. And if you're sitting, I'd like you to reach your head up toward the sky and imagine you have a red string coming out from the crown of your head, rising up toward the sky, and that string is pulled taut, kind of like a marionette string, so that your entire spine lengthens toward the sky. And then tuck your chin a little bit to make sure that your spine is straight. And you can bring your shoulders up toward your ears and then all the way back and all the way down. You can do that a few times if you like to create space between your ears and your shoulders. Maybe you want to bring your left ear to your left shoulder, and your right ear to your right shoulder. Reach your head right back up toward the sky, that added spaciousness in your neck. And then imagine a root growing out of your tailbone and down into the floor beneath you. Like a tree, the root that goes through the chair, through the ground, down through the foundations of wherever you are, if you're in a physical structure, down into the earth. And this root system moves through the brown earth, down, down, deep into the earth, toward the core of the earth. And these roots nourish you, and they ground you, and they connect you in a place of whole body support and safety and trust. And as you imagine your roots going down through the earth, bring your attention back to the crown of your head and observe how through the string you are also connected to the sky and the entire world around you. So that you are merely a conduit for the earth and your personal experience, and the sky and the world around you. And as you feel spaciousness in your spinal column and an expansion of energy throughout your body that comes from this spaciousness, I'd like to guide you through a short body scan to help you connect with your physical body. So first, I'd like you to bring your attention to your right thumb. Notice the pulse in your right thumb. Now focus on your right pointer finger, your right third finger, your right fourth finger, your right fifth finger, all the fingers on your right hand, the palm of your hand, the back of your hand, your wrist, your whole right hand, your lower arm, your upper arm, your right shoulder, your entire right arm, your left thumb, your left pointer finger, your left middle finger, your left fourth finger, your left pinky finger, all of your fingers on the left hand, the palm of your hand, the back of your hand, your wrist, your entire left hand, your left lower arm, your left upper arm, your left shoulder, your entire left arm. Bring your attention to the muscles in the top of your back, and imagine massaging those muscles like you would to relieve any stress. Notice as they soften under your fingers. Bring your attention to your collarbones, your chest cavity, your heart center, and notice the beating of your heart, your lungs, your rib cage, your abdomen, your reproductive area, your hips, your lower back, your sitting bones, your entire torso, your entire torso. Bring your attention to your right toe, your right second toe, your right third toe, your right fourth toe, your right fifth toe, all of the toes on your right foot, the bottom of your foot, top of your left foot, right foot, excuse me, your right ankle, your entire right foot, your lower right leg, the front of your knee, the back of your knee, your right thigh, your right hamstring, the area where your leg feeds into your hip muscles, and your entire right leg. Bring your attention to your left big toe, your left second toe, your left third toe, your left fourth toe, your left fifth toe, all the toes on your left foot, bottom of your left foot, top of your left foot, your left ankle, your entire left foot, your left lower leg, the front of your left knee, the back of your left knee, your left thigh, your left hamstring, and the place on the left side of your leg where it joins your left hip. Now your entire left leg. Now I'd like you to bring your attention to the space between your two eyebrows. Notice your forehead as it smooths and relaxes under your observation. Allow your eyebrows to relax, your eye sockets to relax, your eyeballs to relax, your eyelashes, your cheekbones, your outer ears, your inner ears. Notice sound entering your inner ears, your nose, your nostrils, noticing air entering your nostrils, the outside of your mouth, the inside of your mouth, your teeth, your tongue. Allow your entire mouth to relax. Allow your jaw to relax. Allow your scalp to relax. Imagine every follicle of hair, each strand of hair, and allow each of them to relax. Bring your attention to your neck, the back of the neck, front of the neck, your throat. And now allow your entire head to relax. Now finally bring your attention to the wholeness of your entire body. And allow your entire body to relax. Allow your entire body to relax. Feel the pulsing of energy and aliveness in your body, and allow your entire body to relax. Now I'd like you to affirm to yourself the wholeness that you're feeling in this moment and the presence that you're feeling in this moment. And the sense of relaxation you inhibit as you bear witness to your body. Noticing that you are consciousness observing your body. Now I'd like you to think about the anxiety that has prompted you to sign up for this session today. Why did you decide to join this webinar today? Maybe several reasons, several different anxieties, prompted by several different stressors. And I'd like you to think about the stressor that is the most intense for you, remembering to observe it. You are not the stressor, you are not the feelings, you are the consciousness observing the feelings. So as you lean into that uncomfortable feeling, I'd like you to notice where in the body you are experiencing that stress. Do you feel, for example, a tightening in your stomach, or a tightness in your chest, or a drying of your mouth? Just notice when you think about the most anxiety-producing stressor in your life right now, lean into it, stay with it, and just notice where in the body you are feeling that. Now try and see if there's a movement in your body associated with that feeling. Maybe there's a churning or a tightening or a sucking in or a withdrawal or a bursting forth. Many different movements are possible. So just stay with the movement and see, even if it's a tiny movement, what that movement looks like, what it wants to do. And as you notice that movement, lean into the movement. See if you can almost accentuate that movement so that the sensations are heightened. And you can feel that movement activating in your body. Now that you've identified the movement, try and see if you can name the emotion or the emotions that are attached to that feeling, physical sensation, and that movement. What is the feeling? Feeling could be fear, feeling could be sadness, could be regret, could be anger. Really feel in to that movement and see if you can name the emotion or emotions that are coming up for you through that physical sensation. Now that you have named the emotion, and if you haven't named it precisely, that's okay. The more we do this work, the more clear and nuanced our understanding becomes. So as you have now named this emotion, these emotions, I'd like you to conjure the first memory, the first time you can remember feeling these emotions. Could be from when you're very little, time in the playground, or time when your parent told you something, or an event that happened to you, or could be when you were a teenager or a young adult, or at some point during your adulthood. Think back to the earliest time you can remember feeling this way. And allow whatever comes to your mind first to come up. Suspending any judgment, just welcoming whatever comes up to come up. Tapping into that first memory that you associate with that distressing feeling. Now I'd like you to think about the initial stressor I asked you to bring to mind that compelled you to sign up for this webinar. And I'd like you to observe the link between that initial stressor and the first memory that you have. Notice that they're connected. Notice that the stressor that has brought you here today is a reaction to the initial stressor, or maybe a reaction to the initial memory. The word reaction is like a repetition of an action. So I'd like you to observe how the sensation of anxiety you are experiencing today is like a reliving of the stressful experience you had in your past. So just notice how those two stressful experiences are linked, but notice that they're not the same. And then I'd like you to inhale as you notice those two ideas separating from each other. And as you exhale, I'd like you to release any anxiety you're holding on to in the present moment relating to the current stressor. So inhale, see the two experiences separating, and exhale, allow yourself to let go of the anxiety in the current moment through observation of the fact that that initial experience is not happening in the present. Inhale, separate. Exhale, let the anxiety melt. Inhale, separate. Exhale, let go of your current anxiety. Do a few more rounds at your own pace. Inhaling. And exhaling and watching as your body relaxes into the earth. Inhaling, exhaling, and noticing the spaciousness come over you. Inhaling and then exhaling a trust and a release. And now from this place of expanded spaciousness, I'd like you to ask yourself, what is available to you to enter that space that you have just created for yourself? What positive, new feeling, idea, or action feels available to you in your personal life and or in your professional life as a result of this newly cultivated space? And again, whatever comes to mind, it could come to you as a visual, it could come to you as a knowing, maybe it's a sensation or an idea or feeling. Just observe it, welcome it. Allow it to play out in your head a little bit as you allow a small smile to creep onto your face. Now I'd like you to take a really big, deep breath in through your nose and out audibly through your mouth. One more time, in through your nose, out through your mouth. And now shake your arms and your hands, shake your shoulders. Bring your left ear to your left shoulder, your right ear to your right shoulder. You might stick out your tongue. Wiggle everything, your toes, your fingers, wiggle that body. Allow your energy to disperse. Bring your attention back into the room. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So, welcome back. I hope you're feeling relaxed and spacious and enlightened. And what I'd like to do now is open up the space to sharing. So if you're comfortable, I'd love you to take a few moments and type into the chat box the answers to the following questions. Mara is then going to select a few of these experiences and she's going to share them with the group. So firstly, what emotions did you find when I asked you to locate the physical sensation in your body and the emotions attached to it? What emotions did you find? What memory was tied to that emotion or emotions? What was it like for you to let go of your current anxiety by acknowledging that your old experience is not happening in the present? And what new feeling, idea, opportunity, thought became available in its place? So we'll just take a few moments for your answers to come in. And then, Mara, I'll turn it over to you to read out some of the answers.
Sure, and we're definitely going to give a moment for people to submit their answers. But a couple of people have said that the emotions that they found were calm or relief. A few people have said that they were tied to some childhood memories. And then for experience of letting go, very kind of straightforward. A few people have said a feeling of release, physically and emotionally. And that they are not used to letting go, so it felt strange.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Some people said that the emotion that came up for them was stress. The memory was actually tied to their job search. A few people have said that what became available in place was hope, or feeling reset, re-energized has come up. One person has shared that they found sadness. A few people actually have shared that it was tied to a memory of abandonment or even betrayal. I think that's something that comes up in job search a lot. And that letting go was hard. A few people have actually written in that it was actually very difficult to let go, and that they're not quite sure what's coming in its place. So a lot of people kind of sharing similar feelings and unique feelings as well. And thank you everyone for sharing.
Thanks, Mara, for reading those out. Thank you everybody for sharing. Those of you who did share and those of you who didn't share. I think sharing can often be associated with the 3 A's, in the sense that first you become aware of what's going on inside you, and then you can accept what's going on. So for those of you who felt it was really hard to let go, that may be because you are not familiar with that feeling. It may feel a little bit scary. You may be feeling resistance to the fact that that feeling is even under there. It may be the first time you're even getting in touch with that feeling, or you may be familiar with this feeling and you may even know where it stems from, but you may feel resistance to embracing that feeling because it's painful. And so that's the second A, which is the acceptance. And once you have leaned into acceptance a bit more, then it's possible to move into action. So for some of you, that action, in a very meta sense, was just sharing your experience today, which is awesome. And for those of you who didn't feel like sharing, then perhaps you're just in the beginning awareness phase and you're entering the acceptance phase. And it's not yet time to share. It's only time for you to begin kind of like creating an accord, like creating a peace treaty almost inside you, where you finally agree to hear what's going on, finally agree to hear and see that part of you. And that self-acceptance is what allows, partly for the letting go, which of course can be so difficult. Like, we are trained basically from the womb in Western society to control whatever we can, or at least create a circumstance that makes us feel like we're in control, especially as executives. I mean, type A is an encapsulation of that phenomenon. So it's natural that letting go is going to feel really different. It's going to feel scary at first, or it may feel scary. It may feel uncomfortable. It may feel strange. But it's also important to realize that as you let go, and as you realize that there's more space being created, that space is where the newness can come in. And that's where your future can come in. And that's the space in which you can create visions for yourself for the most fulfilled version of you. and then allow those visions to become clear. And as those visions become clear on the inside, that is the place from which you can start manifesting that reality on the outside. So it very well may take time. It's a process of getting to know yourself, getting to accept yourself, and then finally moving into action. But this is the beginning. So really well done. This is a big step. So in summary, I'd just like to wrap up by sharing that stop, drop, and listen are your 3 tools for calming anxiety and finding direction in the present moment, but also professionally and in your career in terms of where you want to navigate to and how you can actually attain your highest potential. And that these tools, as I said, can be used on a small scale, but they can also be used on a large scale. If you've enjoyed this class, I'd love to continue the work with you. And I'm offering a special starter package, which consists of 3 coaching sessions through Ivy Exec. The package is priced at $585, and it represents a really deeply discounted rate on the prices that I offer through my private practice. So it's a really great opportunity for you to kind of dip your toe if you would like to begin this journey or continue this journey wherever you are. I should mention that my private practice is pretty busy, and so I have a real limited availability of slots. So if you're interested, I would certainly encourage you to reach out as soon as you can using this link here, which will connect you with one of my colleagues at Ivy Exec to discuss what coaching would look like. It will be a short 15-minute conversation you'll have with my colleague that can result in a coaching relationship with me if that turns out to be a good fit for you. And then finally, I'd like to encourage you to be kind with yourself today. Remember that this is a difficult time for all of us, and that this process that we just moved through together is important, and that you deserve gentleness. So please take care of yourself. Maybe take a bath tonight. Do something nice for yourself. And with that, I think we'll move to questions. Before we do, I'd just like to highlight that this link here is, again, the link for you to book your conversation to have a coaching engagement with me. It's not a link because I couldn't put a link here, but this is the URL that you can type out. You can also visit my website here, and I would love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can continue that conversation there as well. So thanks everyone for being here. Mara, would you like to now open it up to questions?
Yes, we have gotten some questions, and we have a few minutes for just a couple of questions.
Okay, great.
The first question that came up was, what do you do if you are observing yourself in the middle of an anxiety reaction and there's other people involved? So how do you kind of address what's happening and maybe stop it in the middle of an interaction? And anyone who has questions, please drop them in the question box as well. But that's one that came up.
Thank you. Right, so thank you for that question. And I feel like this is the classic interview moment, or, you know, as I said, there's so many traumas that we're experiencing right now that really it all can kind of converge and become too much for us at any given time. And I think there's a range of anxiety that one can express. there can be more of a mild sense of anxiety inside that is a bit distracting for you, that may distract you, like we said, by compromising your prefrontal cortex a little bit and sending you into that hazy amygdala, fight, flight, freeze mode. And I think in those situations, it's okay to take a deep breath and close your eyes, kind of the way that I have done while guiding you through this meditation. If you were able to see me, it's okay to take a breath. Like, taking a breath is allowed. We're human, we're not machines. If you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody, even if you're in the middle of an interview with somebody, you can just take a breath, or you can say, excuse me for just a second, I want to center myself. Take a minute, take a couple of moments, take 30 seconds. Breathe. I think that focus on connecting to your body through your breath. Your breath is the link between your mind and your body. So by closing your eyes, going inward, focusing on your breath, you can drop into your body and remind yourself that you are the observer. By recognizing that you are not your feelings, but you are just an observer of your feelings, that is often enough to just name it and tame it, to put that anxiety at bay. And then I think on the more extreme end of the spectrum, in terms of anxiety, it's possible to have an anxiety attack, which is where your amygdala essentially totally hijacks you, and you can experience accelerated breathing and sweating and difficulty breathing and dizziness. And I think in this situation, again, it's a matter of respecting your own experience as a human. It's just to what degree you kind of express that externally. So in a more extreme scenario, I think it's totally viable for you to excuse yourself from whatever meeting you have. If it's, you know, a client meeting or a group meeting or whatever, or even a presentation, you can certainly excuse yourself from the room, for sure, or from the video room or whatever. And then I think when you do leave the room, that again, it's that breathing, coming back to yourself, coming back to that observer piece of you, and remembering that whatever shame you may have or self-judgment associated with having left that group setting is, again, just a present day reaction to something old. So let's say you excuse yourself, you walk out of the room and you, I don't know, burst into tears, or you freak out, whatever it is, and you think, oh my God, how did that happen to me? How did I do that? It's sort of dropping into your body, stop, drop, and listen. Listen for what the old memory is that was triggered, and then having compassion for yourself for having lived through that old memory, and reminding yourself that you're living in the present right now. So instead of going back to the past or projecting into the future, dropping into the present moment. And that is what will help you to regulate.
Thank you so much. I think we have maybe 2 minutes for one last question. Someone asked, how do you balance an emergency with the need to take time to stop and be aware?
This is a really good one. And I wish I had more time for this, but okay, I think there are two short answers to this question. One is that during an emergency, usually there's or oftentimes there's like a tunnel vision that can happen, whereby that's it. It can. What I'm thinking is, if you know that you're the person that needs to act, then your fight mode can be activated through the release of adrenaline, and when that happens, there's a tunnel visioning that tends to happen. And it's like the rest of the world kind of moves into slow-mo, and you're kind of like, whoa, laser focused on whatever is right in front of you. So I think using that to your advantage and kind of being aware that your brain is almost serving you to address that emergency by blocking other things out can be really helpful. I'll give you an example. I actually once gave the Heimlich maneuver to somebody and saved their life. We were at a sushi restaurant, this person choked. And at first I was looking around to see who else was going to step in, and nobody came to the rescue. And all of a sudden my like survival response kicked in, and I just went into tunnel vision mode, and it was like calm settled over me, and I was just like, hey, Avery, it's go time, let's do this. And I flashed back to like 8th grade CPR class, and I did the Heimlich, and the person survived, thankfully. But just an example of using that focus to your advantage. I think there's a second tip that you can use to navigate an emergency, and that is to remember that you are like alive in this moment. So I think during an emergency, it's possible that you can project out into the future and think about different scenarios that you could take on to address the current emergency. But dropping into your body and reminding yourself that you're a human, like a living, breathing human, will kind of bring you back to the here and now. And I think there's also scope to trust that in an emergency, your system knows what to do. It can kind of move into an autopilot. And as you develop these meditation and mindfulness practices, you will be able to cultivate that trust such that over time, you can kind of abdicate to your inner wisdom and let things roll, trusting that they will work out, and they will.
Thank you so much. That is all the time that we have today. Thank you so much, Avery, and thank you to everyone who's been here with us for this webinar. As a reminder, you can use the link in the chat to learn more about having sessions with Avery one-on-one. And as well, to remind you, you'll be receiving a recording of this webinar in your email in the next couple of days, as well as that link again. So again, thank you, Avery. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much, everybody.